Weekdays from midday.
More than 10 people have had to be rescued after a huge sinkhole opened in a canal in Shropshire, leaving several narrowboats stranded.
Yes, 3 boats have been affected by the incident, with at least 2 swallowed by the sinkhole, which is approximately 50 by 50 metres in size.
Extraordinary. Well, joining us with the story is Paul Smith-Story, who's on a canal boat 3 boats away from this sinkhole. Paul, this sort of thing doesn't really happen very often, does it?
It doesn't. There was a huge breach on the Bridgewater Canal last year, but this is the first time we've actually seen boats at the bottom of the breach. It was quite scary to witness, to be honest.
So how close are you? What can you see from where you are?
Yeah, well, we're about 90 metres away from where the sinkhole started. We got woke up at 4:20 this morning. There was crashing on the boat because the boat was listing. We got off and a friend of ours told us that there was this sinkhole that had appeared and that there was a boat about to drop into it. And that was, when we got there, the boat was already in the bottom of this sinkhole. The rush of water was incredible. It just sounded like a huge waterfall. Luckily, those boaters got out, and we actually know the chap whose first boat went in. We're just so thankful that he got out in time with his dog.
Gosh, Paul, just explain what we're seeing on our screens right now. So the narrow boat there has come out of the water that we see on the left, and it's sort of, has it rolled over and down into the sinkhole? What's going on?
That's the actual line where the red clay is the line of the canal. Just where those 3 trees are to the left is a field that's flooded, and I think that's where the water's escaped from the canal, and it's just flooded the field to the left of that image. It was really scary.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
Good morning to you. 9:30 on Wednesday, the 14th of January, live across the UK, Britain's newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, there's been another Labour U-turn and another humiliation. The Prime Minister has ditched plans for compulsory digital ID, the 13th policy reversal since May.
It's never a serious policy. When it was announced, Keir Starmer said that it's going to stop the small boats, and it was all about illegal migration. Well, the only way you stop illegal migration is by having a strong deterrent.
And breaking news within the last hour, the pressure is now mounting ever more on the West Midlands Police Chief, Craig Guilford. The pressure is to go. After he's apologised to MPs, he misled them, blaming the use of AI in evidence he gave to MPs in Westminster. What a joke.
And in international news, President Donald Trump promises help is on the way to Iran as he warns of very strong action if the Iranian regime carries through with threats to execute protesters today.
And the government is now promising a new rail link between Birmingham and Manchester, just 2 years after the last government scrapped HS2. Another grand announcement, but will it actually happen? And when will this rail link ever open? Probably in the 2040s.
I'll be a pensioner. Well, no water for a 5th day for thousands of homes across Kent and Sussex as a major incident is declared. Now, Andrew, I really like the idea of better rail links up north, and I've always thought that it was a mistake to put so much money into HS2 when actually northern cities like Leeds and Sheffield and Manchester and Rotherham are not well linked by rail, and it would be a huge boost to the economy if they were. But while I was an MP, all this stuff was promised. We were promised better, even more local links. It never happened because the hoops that you have to jump through, the environmental reports, inflation. I'm afraid I'm so sceptical that any of these rail lines will ever be built, even though we do need them.
I know, we're going to get a major announcement either today or tomorrow, and it's just for the birds because, I mean, I will be probably not just an old age pensioner, I'll probably be in a mausoleum by the time this blooming thing is open. It's just a joke. And it's just, what's the point? I mean, HS2 was supposed to open in, what, 2033 or 2026. They've spent billions and they've done nothing.
And you look at other countries, they managed to build rail links, nuclear power stations, bridges and infrastructure. What is wrong with the processes in this country? We just can't deliver anything.
And of course, mind you, getting rid of these terrible rail projects means the countryside will be safe. But of course, a lot of them had to go underground to save the bats, to save the wildlife, the newts.
The fairies, who knows?
Honestly.
Well, something that we can deliver is a news update with Sam Francis, your 60-second news headlines.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 9:30. Well, the top story this hour, the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police is under growing pressure to resign after admitting he used AI to give MPs false evidence about banning Israeli football fans. Craig Guilford says the system invented a previous match that never happened. The Home Secretary said to make a statement later after a watchdog has handed its findings to ministers. Also this hour, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves says the government is now working intensely on emergency support for pubs after major backlash. That's despite MPs backing a hike in alcohol duty with a support package now, she says, due in the next days and weeks. It's after a warning that higher taxes, wages and national insurance could force many closures. Donald Trump has warned Iran the US will take very strong action if protesters are executed. That's as more than 2,400 people are now feared dead. The 26-year-old protester is reportedly just days from execution. The UK has summoned Iran's ambassador and imposed new sanctions, calling the killings horrendous and brutal. The government has dropped plans to force workers to sign up to digital ID to prove their right to work. Digital checks will still arrive by 2029, but registration will now be optional. It's a clear U-turn from Sir Keir Starmer's pledge that people won't be able to work without digital IDs. And at least 25 people have been killed after a construction crane collapsed onto a moving train in Thailand. Nearly 200 people were on board when the carriages were crushed and caught fire. Rescuers are still searching the wreckage. Those are the latest headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And we have had some breaking news recently in the last half hour.
This bloke's a clown. That's the word for him.
Could be anybody.
Yeah.
Please explain.
No, this is the Chief Constable of the West Midlands Police, Craig
Guilford.
His evidence before the Select Committee of MPs last week was an embarrassment. I'm not going to say he was lying, but it was unconvincing. He was the one who took the decision to ban the Tel Aviv football team coming to Birmingham because he said he couldn't guarantee their safety.
Well, it wasn't the team that were banned. They were allowed to play the match. The fans.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that they were banned was because the Safety Action Group, the local group in Birmingham, said that it was too risky locally, both to the players, the fans themselves, but also to the local community. But it turns out that some of the evidence for this was based on a fake AI report about a previous match that never happened.
That never even happened. And he also claimed, did this Chief Constable, that these fans had behaved abominably and shockingly at a match, I think it was in Holland, and he had evidence that the police there thought that those fans these Israeli fans were unfit to travel. The Dutch police have said they did not provide that report. Was that AI as well?
It could have been. I mean, it does show the dangers of using AI, and I do have some sympathy for this because I do use it for research sometimes, but I always try and make sure that I click on the links that it's referring to make sure the reports happen. But I once wrote an article about the situation in Israel a couple of years ago, and I pasted the article into ChatGPT and said, could you find me some quotes to add to the article? No, it came back with this quote from Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. And I thought, I don't remember ever hearing that. So I typed in, can you provide me evidence for this quote? And it came back and said, actually, we made a mistake. He never said that. But imagine if I'd just put that in the article.
I know.
So I can quite understand how this has happened. with absolutely no malice. It just shows the danger of using ChatGPT. It doesn't work.
But I don't understand why a Chief Constable giving evidence for a select committee of MPs, really high profile, really high powered occasion, his job's potentially on the line over the woeful decision, by the way, to ban the fans from coming to... I mean, it effectively said that Britain is closed to Jewish fans, football fans. That's what it effectively was saying. It was a wicked decision in the first place. But why would you rely on AI? Why wouldn't you get...
I know, real people to check the facts.
Get over every single detail yourself. So if he is sacked, and I hope he is, let's hope it's soon.
Well, it's going to happen more and more. And of course, this was revealed by The Telegraph. We should give them credit for that report. Charles Hymas in The Telegraph.
Yeah.
Well, moving on now. Sir Keir Starmer has shelved plans for compulsory digital IDs after a backlash against the policy, retreating to a voluntary scheme from 2029. And we now think this is a 13th U-turn to add to Labour's collection.
There we are. Sold as tough action on illegal migration. He also said, the Prime Minister, it would stop illegal migrants, quote, slipping into the shadow of the economy. So the compulsory aspect is gone, but they're going to persevere with the voluntary aspect, which is even more of a waste of time and money.
Well, joining us now is the policing and crime commentator and former Labour advisor, Danny Shaw. Danny, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. When Keir Starmer first announced this policy last September, I think the government probably thought that it would be popular. Digital ID has previously polled quite well. But support for the scheme rapidly plummeted. Why do you think that was?
I think because there was poor communication. And I think overall, the government, is not being trusted. It's very, we know from the opinion polls how unpopular it is. So, even if they had, announced a hugely popular policy, I still think there would be an element of people who wouldn't trust it. But I think overall, they didn't make the argument. I mean, it felt like the policy came a bit out of the blue. They were hoping that because it was perceived as a crackdown on illegal migration and illegal workers, that it would have sort of widespread public consent. But it began to unravel, and then there were other claims that it was going to be used for other purposes as well. So overall, I think the messaging has been really, really dire on this. I mean, it's being painted as a U-turn, and I think that's, with some justification. But the concept of digital ID, I think, is still going to go ahead, but it's really the compulsory part which is not. And personally, I think that's a wise approach. I think it's much better, if you want to build support for something, to do it sort of gradually, get people to understand the benefits of having a digital ID card that they can hold and use to prove their identity, access benefits, can help prove their right to work. And then slowly and gradually, more and more people will take it up because they see how convenient it is. A little bit like, how so many of us now, for example, use digital banking because it's so, it's so pain-free in many respects.
They're calling this, Danny, the reverse Midas touch, because when Starmer announced this in September, support for an ID card was not great, but at 35%, now at minus 14%. So it appears, because it was associated with the Prime Minister, who we know, it's not me being party pre here, records show is the most unpopular Prime Minister we've ever had. Because of that association, it killed this stone dead. And also he had many Labour MPs who were very, very uneasy about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. If you had some of the good communicators in government pressing the case, making the argument, laying the groundwork for it, which is what you have to do with a big policy. You have to lay the groundwork, make the arguments. You might have to do that several times before you announce exactly what you're going to do. If that had happened, I think we would see a different result. I also think that it felt like the announcement was premature. It felt like, there needs to be some sort of review or some kind of process behind the scenes which has really demonstrated the benefits of this. We were told that there was going to be a consultation document afterwards, but it felt like they got it the wrong way round. And the fact that they've now sort of abandoned the mandatory element of it, does suggest, I think, as someone said yesterday, that, they're trying to get the barnacles off the boat and concentrate on the cost of living crisis, but it does feel like they're just sort of blundering around without, an idea about what to do and how to do it. I mean, I come back to the example of Shabana Mahmood when she was Justice Secretary, had some really difficult decisions to make and policies to announce on prison overcrowding, having to release prisoners, but she did not get the flack for that you might have expected, because she and her ministers laid the groundwork, made the argument effectively over many weeks and months, so people sort of accepted and understood that this was a necessary response. And it's that sort of approach that other departments should be doing.
Danny, I take your point that there were communications errors, that's for sure. They certainly didn't roll the pitch. It wasn't in the manifesto to start with. But I don't think it was just that. I think people saw through the reason that was given for this, which was to stop illegal working. And I think most people with any common sense will understand that if an employer is unscrupulous and is already employing illegal workers, being asked by the police to check a digital ID card is not going to stop them employing those illegal workers. They're just going to carry on as normal. And therefore, the question is, well, what's it really for? It's for keeping track on the population, for eventually moving to some sort of social credit system like you have in China. Now, that might sound an extreme thing to say, but that's what was going through people's minds. And that's why people have become less and less supportive of the idea in total.
Well, that may have been what some people thought. I've never thought it was about that whatsoever. I don't think there's any interest in having some kind of database or control over people. It's about a smoother and more streamlined system that's less open to fraud and abuse. And, I do think there are arguments in favour of it. There are obviously privacy concerns as well. But I think it goes back, Miriam, to the government making the argument and taking those arguments on in a more effective way. I honestly don't think it's about some Orwellian project, but because you don't make those arguments properly and you haven't got communicators who are trusted, then that leaves a space for people to jump in and say, oh, there's a hidden agenda here.
How much will it cost, Danny, do you think, a voluntary ID card scheme?
A voluntary scheme, well, I mean, that is one of my concerns, is the cost, because I remember, Andrew, and you will remember the Blair Brown governments that tried to introduce an ID card scheme, and I thought that was, a really poor idea. It was destined to fail, and then it was abandoned. Partly my concern was around the huge cost of this. So I can't give you a precise figure. I would hope that because technology has moved on, it wouldn't be as expensive as it was, I think, estimated then. And then you've got to understand whether the benefits of it over time are going to, supplement or the costs, or overtake the costs, as it were. But I think that's something that, again, the government hadn't really bottomed out, because I think there was confusion about the likely costs.
Danny Shaw, thank you so much for your time this morning on those digital ID cards. Well, don't go away, because still ahead.
Pressure mounting on that police chief who barred Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. The pressure is on him to resign after he's now admitted misleading MPs with the use of, can you believe this, AI. What was he and his team thinking of?
Well, coming up next, no water for a fifth day for thousands of homes across Kent and Sussex as a major incident is declared. But first, if you want to get away from it all and find some holiday sun, here is our forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of fine weather across Europe at the moment, particularly central and southeastern areas. It's mild in Italy with sunny spells, but the one place where it is going to be unsettled on Thursday, Portugal. Heavy rain accompanied by strong winds. That system's going to move into Spain later in the day and affect parts of France. Italy, a few showers towards the north, otherwise plenty of warm sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens, and it stays fine in Italy for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good,
because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Relationships, you do have to set your boundaries, which means know what is acceptable behaviour for you and don't tolerate anything else. And actually, my book, Screw You, Watch This, is called Screw You, Watch This. I thought you'd like the title.
I do like that.
It's quite punchy, but it's not screw you to your ex, it's screw you to the fear and being held back and the loneliness and your old story about what you accepted. And Watch This is, right, I'm going to step up, I'm going to take my power back and let's move on to the new chapter. And it kind of is my motto and has been for many years. And I have a training school where I train people to become coaches, and that's our motto in the school because it kind of lights a bit of a fire in your belly. Screw you, watch this.
I think I've had that motto for a long time. I can go from 0 to 60 in about 2 seconds, maybe 1 actually. So have you found new love?
Not at the moment, Nana, so I'm going to be looking to you for some recommendations.
I'm really fussy. So, very good book. I'm looking forward to reading it. Just a reminder, you said you've got free stuff on the website for people to go to, so what's the web address?
Yeah, so it's saradavison.com, and if anyone is struggling right now with a toxic or any kind of divorce, we have free online support groups every week, 3 hours, run by my accredited coaches that I've trained myself, and you can go on and get your questions answered and just give us a bit of support to people who need it.
OK, and very quickly, first start for somebody who's listening and watching and thinking, all right, I want to divorce my partner. What's the first thing they need to be doing?
Get your ducks in a line. Don't rush into something. First of all, if you can save the marriage and work at it, try that. If you know it's done, then look at getting your breakups team around you. So, yeah, a good friend you can confide in, a good legal advisor, financial advisor. Get the people around you who can answer the questions that keep you awake at night. It's a great way to dial down the negative emotions and start to feel a bit more in control.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's nearly 10 to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Water shortages are sweeping across the southeast. Thousands have been without water for 5 days. Tens of thousands, in fact.
Yes, more than 30,000 properties have been affected, with locals heading to water collection points as the taps run dry.
Now, I'm joined now by the leader of Kent County Council, Lyndon Chemican. Lyndon, good morning.
Good morning.
This is bad on your watch. Are you convinced that South East Water are doing enough? I hear that there are all sorts of stories about people being sent to the wrong place for emergency water supplies, and that the chief executive or the boss of South East Water doesn't want to come onto the media and talk like you are because he doesn't want people to talk about his salary, because he thinks it's a distraction. It would be. He's on $400,000 a year, and last year he got a £115,000 bonus, which I hope he's putting in the post back to the taxpayer.
Quite frankly, this situation is outrageous, and we have had enough. This is not the first time. In fact, this is the second time in the space of 1 month that Kent has been without water. Before Christmas, it was Tunbridge Wells who were without water. I think 25,000 household properties were affected by a complete lack of water. And when the water did eventually come back on, they were subjected to a boil notice because the quality of that water could not be guaranteed for drinking and washing and things like that. The communication before Christmas was poor. David Hinton, the chief exec of South East Water, was missing in action. I don't think anyone saw hide nor hair of him before Christmas. He certainly wasn't the face of the operation. And this time, now we're in early January, the same thing has happened again. He's missing in action. He's certainly not getting out there and reassuring his own troops, let alone his thousands and thousands of paying customers who pay good money for clean water to arrive at our properties and businesses, and we have been severely and repeatedly let down.
What is the problem? Not that you can speak to the missing in action boss of South East Water councillor, but what is the problem? Why has this happened twice?
Well, basically, to boil it down, it is a lack of investment in the basic infrastructure that provides our water to the southeast of England. South East Water is a company that's owned by several different multinational stakeholders. The boss, as you say, earns a pretty penny. He earns way more than most of us could ever dream of earning in our lifetimes. He also gets a healthy bonus every year. Every time they are fined by the regulator for not providing a good enough service, do you think that money comes out of his pocket? I don't think so. They stick the money on the customers' bills. Don't forget, we don't have a choice about where we get our water supply from. There is no competition in this market. We can't simply up sticks and move to a different provider as a customer of South East Water. We are stuck with the monopoly service and they can charge us what they like. That's what's so unfair about this. And if they're not reinvesting in the infrastructure needed to provide the service, it's always the customer who's going to lose out.
Given that there is no competition and it's not possible to introduce any form of competition, do you think that the water companies should be brought back into public ownership?
I think it's certainly something we need to look at. I think that it's a lovely idea, privatising utilities in the first instance. But as time goes on, unless there is something that makes the bosses of those privatised utilities reinvest properly in their infrastructure to make sure that their customer service is gold standard, then I'm afraid what happens is it becomes a money-making scheme, especially if there's no competition. And of course, then the directors can make themselves very rich out of providing utilities to the customer who have no choice and can't shop around.
And Councillor, just check, 75% of that company, your water company, is owned by foreign companies. Half of it's owned by an Australian company, 25% by a Canadian company. So they don't care about your residents not having any water.
We are going to have to leave it there, Lyndon. Thank you so much, though. Lyndon Cameron from Kent County Council leader. Fascinating stuff. Well, don't go away because we've got another U-turn from Labour on the cards and a humiliation for the Prime Minister as he ditches digital ID. This is Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Well, it's a cold start, but a fine start for most of us. More rain and showers turning up later. It will feel chilly with some hill snow or even some low-level snow to come in a few spots across northern parts of the UK. We've got slippery surfaces to watch out for throughout much of Scotland first thing, but dry with building cloud from the west and a lot of fine weather for England and Wales. Plenty of sunny spells. However, in the south, there is some low cloud arriving with patchy rain. Feeling cold, 7 or 8 Celsius at best. 4 to 6 across northern parts of the UK. Not as cold as it was last week, of course, but it will feel chillier compared with Tuesday's mild weather. Now, by the end of the afternoon, we've got outbreaks of rain arriving into western Scotland. That's going to push into the cold air. We'll see a spell of hill snow throughout much of central Scotland. Northern Ireland, a dreary end to Wednesday, with those outbreaks of rain continuing through much of the afternoon, only clearing slowly by evening. West Wales, Cornwall, seeing those outbreaks of rain arrive, mostly showery in nature, and we do have some showers, some heavy downpours into the southeast during the evening. So spells of rain or showers for most on Thursday morning as we go through the early hours. Flakes of snow over northern parts of the UK. Could be a touch of snow at lower levels for northeast England, eastern Scotland. But like I say, nowhere near the kind of snow that we have seen through January so far. Brighter skies follow for Thursday morning into Wales, northwest England, much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, albeit with further showers. However, already we've got the next spell of rain pushing into a large part of England and Wales. A little bit of uncertainty about the precise location of this heavy rain. Could be a bit further west into southeast Wales, southwest England. Could cause a few issues with some very heavy rain at times.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A9 at Dalwhinnie, restrictions are in place after a broken down vehicle. In Welshpool, the A458 is blocked both ways at Church Street at the Cross, with diversions. In Northumberland, the A1 northbound is closed between the A1068 and the A1167, south of Berwick upon Tweed, after a collision, with recovery expected around 11:15. Cheshire's M6 northbound has one lane shut between junctions 18 and 19 due to a stranded vehicle. And on the trains, Gatwick Express is disrupted to and from London Victoria, while Great Western Railway is using road transport between Liskeard and Looe. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Wednesday the 14th of January. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Another day, another week, and guess what? Another Labour U-turn and another humiliation for Sir Keir Starmer, who's ditched his plans, high-profile plans they were, for compulsory digital ID. Thank God he's doing it, but it's the 13th U-turn since May.
It's never a serious policy. When it was announced, Keir Starmer said that it's going to stop the small boats, and it was all about illegal migration. Well, the only way you stop illegal migration is by having a strong deterrent.
Yes, it's no surprise at all that Keir Starmer has decided that this policy is not for him. It is popular with only 4 in 10 voters. But how is a 14th U-turn going to go down with the public? Find out more with me very soon.
And breaking news within the last hour, pressure is mounting on the West Midlands Police Chief Craig Guilford to resign as he apologises to MPs for misleading them, blaming the use of AI in evidence that he gave.
And the President of the United States is still promising help is on the way to Iran, as he warns of very strong action if threats are carried out to execute protesters today. The first one thought to be a 26-year-old shopkeeper.
And the government is now promising a new rail link between Birmingham and Manchester, just 2 years after scrapping HS2. Another grand announcement, but will it actually be built this time?
No water for a 5th day for tens of thousands of homes across Kent and Sussex. They finally declared a major incident. So I wonder, if you're queuing up at a water station for water, and this is the second time since December that there's been a major outage in South East Water area, to know that 75% of the water company is owned by foreign shareholders, 50% is owned by a company in Australia, 25% in Canada. Do those companies give a fig, flying fig, about the fact that people can't get their water in parts of Kent and Sussex? No, all they care about is their dividends and their profits.
And we were speaking to the leader of Kent County Council, Lyndon Kemp-Cameron, before the break, and she was saying that as time goes on, it looks more and more of a mistake to have sold off our public utilities, and you could like the idea of private companies running these facilities. Perhaps they will do it more efficiently, but there's no competition. So it's not really a market. It's not really a private company. All we've done is sold our family silver to foreigners. Can't get it back, and all the money is leaving the country, and none of the pipes are being fixed.
And the chief executive of that company, by the way, is paid £400,000 a year, and he got a bonus last year of £115,000. Nowhere to be seen is he. He's like McCavity the cat, the first sign of trouble, disappears, and he doesn't want to do any interviews because he says it'll be a distraction because people will ask about his bonus.
Distraction from the
You're
golf
not
club.
kidding, mate. Come on, GB News, we'll ask you about your bonus.
I really do think these things should be brought back into public ownership. However, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be well run, because it's also impossible to sack civil servants or hold them to account for anything. So the whole thing needs to
or have a proper system of privatisation, a proper system of competition.
But how can you have to build like 4 different pipes down the street? It's just not possible for major utilities, is it? But anyway, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. But first,
post your comments to gbnews.com/. Oh, you just said that.
Without moving my lips.
Can't say it often enough.
Say it again.
Headlines.
Please send your comments. We really want them. Really, really, really.
But what we really want is Sam Francis to give us the headlines.
Very good morning. In case you missed it, post your comments to gbnews.com/your say. Anyway, the headlines. The Chief Constable of West Midlands Police has apologised to MPs after admitting he used artificial intelligence to give wrong evidence about banning Israeli football fans. Craig Guilford says AI falsely produced details of a match that never happened, which was then used to justify stopping Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters from attending a game at Aston Villa. Pressure is now growing on him to resign, with the Home Secretary set to make a statement to Parliament later today. A government watchdog has already handed its findings to ministers. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, says the government is working intensely on emergency support for pubs. That's after MPs had warned a looming business rates hike could force closures. She says a package is now likely, including a cut to rates, which will be announced, she says, in the next few days and weeks. It comes as Parliament voted to raise alcohol duty in line with inflation, despite warnings that rising taxes, wages and national insurance could mean death to local pubs. Opposition MPs say hospitality is now being punished, while ministers insist they do want pubs to thrive. President Donald Trump has warned Iran the United States will take very strong action if protesters are executed. It comes as human rights groups say more than 2,400 demonstrators have already been killed in a violent crackdown. One 26-year-old protester, Irfan Sultani, is now reportedly facing execution within days. Well, Donald Trump told US television that the United States would act accordingly if killings continue.
Well, now we're hearing that they're going to start hanging protesters tomorrow. So it comes back to the question, have they crossed your red line or has the line moved?
I haven't heard about the hanging. If they hang them, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
And this strong action you're talking about, what's the end game?
The end game is to win. I like winning.
Well, Iran blames terrorists for the violence, but Washington says it's now weighing its next move. In London, meanwhile, the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has summoned Iran's ambassador and announced new sanctions, warning the true scale of the violence may be far worse than reported. She told MPs the UK condemns the regime for the horrendous and brutal killing.
The UK has already designated key players in Iran's oil, energy, nuclear and financial systems. Further measures will target finance, energy, transport, software and other significant industries which are advancing Iranian nuclear escalation. And we will work further with the EU and other partners to explore what additional measures might now be needed in response to developments.
The government has dropped plans to force workers to sign up to a digital ID scheme to prove their right to work. Ministers will still move to a digital check by 2029 using the likes of biometric passports, but signing up to a new digital ID itself will now be optional. It's a clear U-turn from Sir Keir Starmer's pledge that you won't be able to work in the UK without digital ID. Opposition parties have welcomed the climb down, calling it a victory for civil liberties, while ministers insist digital ID will still transform public services. At least 25 people have been killed after a construction crane collapsed onto a moving train in Thailand. That crash happened just north of Bangkok, with rescuers still pulling bodies from the wreckage and warning the death toll could still rise further. Nearly 200 passengers and staff were on board when the carriage was crushed, sparking a fire and trapping people inside. Rail bosses have now ordered a thorough investigation into what happened. Those are the latest headlines. I'll have another update for you in around half an hour.
Hello, good morning. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Are they getting in touch?
Let's have a look.
I bet they are.
I
should think there's a huge relief too, Miriam. I know we're mocking the Prime Minister for yet another U-turn, having announced it in September. If you remember, actually, he did the big speech about the ID card in September. Then the party conference speech a few weeks later never mentioned it, which made me think even then they were getting ready to abandon it.
Absolutely. Pat is saying about the water shortage in Kent, there are several data centres near there. She says, I bet their water supply hasn't been affected. Yes, it'd be interesting to know if there's any kind of critical infrastructure that still manages to get water, although I imagine they would have contingency plans.
I imagine the boss of South East Water's home has got plenty of water.
Yes. Yeah.
On his £515,000 salary.
Absolutely. And, also earlier there were lots of comments about the digital ID, people agreeing that there was an ulterior motive for the government bringing in the scheme that wasn't anything really to do with cracking down on illegal migration, although it sounded like a nice idea.
They said it would help tackle illegal migration. Like anybody on a dinghy is going to wear a digital ID
if
card.
Every employer was scrupulous and checked documents before people started
working,
work,
of course it would.
No, but it would work, but you wouldn't need it, as you said. But we know that's not the case.
No.
And there are many people being employed through the black market. Not going to make any difference whether or not they've got this digital ID card, because it's not going to be checked.
We've got Olivia Utley here.
We have to talk about this very story.
What a sort of mess. This is a real mess again, isn't it, Olivia?
It is a real mess. I mean, not surprising that he's changed his mind on this. I do, in a way, feel a bit sorry for the Prime Minister.
Don't do that.
Don't
feel sorry for him.
He has the opposite of the Midas touch.
Yes, he does.
Before he announced this policy, 6 in 10 people backed the idea of a digital ID check. As soon as he announced it, that went down to 4 in 10. Now, part of that, I think, is that it's an unpopular government and policies become unpopular when they are touched by an unpopular government. But I think the other part is that he sold it very, very unwisely. The staunchest proponents of digital ID who I've spoken to wanted it to be sold as something to make life easier for ordinary working Brits if you want to apply for a job or if you want to get married or, get your son's birth registered. They wanted it just to be something to make life easier. Instead, Keir Starmer sold it as a silver bullet for illegal migration, which, as you said, Andrew, feels a little unrealistic. You know, is it going to make a difference if you have proper checks in place? There would be no need for a digital ID. It's a question of employers, for whatever reason, not being scrupulous enough. So proponents I was speaking to were tearing their hair out about the way the policy was being sold. They thought it was just the wrong idea. Now Keir Starmer has gone back. He's not saying there will be no digital ID. It's just he's going back to the idea of it being optional. This is a relief to Labour MPs, but of course a 14th U-turn for the Starmer government. It took over 10 years for Tony Blair to reach that number of U-turns. And it begins to give the impression that this government is weak and that if you lobby them hard enough on something, then they will change their minds. You've already got, a U-turn being planned on pubs. Hairdressers are asking, what about us? Small shops, cafes, etc., asking, what about us as well? And I think we're going to see much more of that.
And it would empower backbench MPs who don't like something to say, if we push hard enough, if we kick hard enough, he'll back down.
Well, exactly. And it's quite an extraordinary situation because it is useful to compare this to the early years of the Blair government, I think, because the size of the majority is very similar. Sure. In the early years of the Blair government, backbench MPs felt indebted to Tony Blair. They felt that they owed him their seats, they owed him their win, and they were, on the whole, really very loyal to him in those early years after 97. It's interesting how that is just not the same this time around. MPs, backbench MPs, know that they won the election not because Keir Starmer was popular, but because the Conservative Party was so unpopular. And that's meant that from the very beginning, for a Prime Minister with such an enormous majority, he's held very little power. And now, among his own backbenchers, and now it is really starting to break down because these backbenchers are believing that if they ask for something, if they push hard enough, if they make enough of a fuss, if they brief to enough journalists, then Keir Starmer will change his mind.
And in that situation, the government can no longer govern. But just going back to the reasons for announcing the digital ID scheme, it does seem extraordinarily politically tone deaf because I don't think ordinary people go around thinking that the system of documentation we have in this country is one of the bane of their life. It's not something that you wake up in the morning and think, oh, I wish it was easier to renew my driving licence, or I wish it was easier to book a plane ticket. The things that annoy people are things like buses not running on time, or trains not running on time, or the roads not being built when they say they're going to be built. I don't think a lack of suitable ID is something that bothers people. Therefore, why would it ever be popular? Wasn't it just a dead cat to distract from everything else the government was getting wrong?
Well, it does sometimes feel a little bit like that. I think the lack of clarity over the messaging, I think you could make a case that it would be smoother, it would be easier to apply for a job if you had digital ID in place, for example. You could make that argument. But the Labour government didn't make that argument. They chose to instead make the argument that it would be an answer to illegal migration. And as we said, that just isn't really realistic. We see the people coming here on small boats. I don't think it rings true to anyone that if they were enforced, if digital ID were enforced, they wouldn't be able to get into the black economy. The whole problem with the black economy is that it is illegal. It is already operating undercover. So it was a very poor selling of this policy, and that's why Keir Starmer is being forced to row back. And I think, Miriam, you make a really important point. Now they have to try and make a clear case for optional digital ID, or no one's going to take them up on it when it comes into effect in 2029. And it's going to look like a very embarrassing waste of not just time, but money as well. One estimate is £1.8 billion.
And why would anybody take it up? Because I wouldn't trust this lot to lose the information on the digital ID, to be in the hands of the
Might
Chinese
get somebody else's ID.
in no time. Or, they would just make a mess of it.
Who would you like to be?
Exactly. So I think they should just say it's doomed and scrap the whole thing.
Well, Olivia Hartley, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. Well, moving on, ministers are set to revive the scrapped Birmingham to Manchester leg of HS2 as part of a new Northern Rail plan.
Labour promises a high-speed East-West Link 2 after first Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak ditched the original route. Questions remain over how it will ever fix the north-south divide. Now, construction isn't due to start until 2030. So when the hell will this ever be built? In the 2040s. I will be long gone. I think it's fair to say.
Well, we'll be riding the train in your memory, hopefully.
Very sweet.
Well, we're joined now by the former Mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Good morning, Andy. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you welcome this announcement this morning for more connectivity in the north?
Miriam, I think nobody cares. I think that this was expected to be, I'm sorry to be rude, but I think this was expected to excite everyone in the north, wasn't it? But you know what? When you talk about long-term rail infrastructure, everyone switches off and thinks of the HS2 debacle. And I think Andrew just said then about 2030s construction. If that happens, deliver in the 40s. They're talking about some of it being delivered in the 40s already, which means the 50s. And, of course, the projected budgets are going to spiral. There's every chance that this never happens. So it's no wonder the public's not interested and that the ID card U-turn climb down is dominating the news. So I'm afraid to say that the news from all my contacts in the north and my networks is that nobody really cares because it'll probably never happen.
I think that's right, Andy, and I think the public have become a bit wise to some of these announcements, really, don't you?
Yeah, I think people have never been so cynical. We've always been cynical of politicians, and so we should. But we've reached a dangerous level now where, and Olivia talked then about, I think she said it was the 14th U-turn. So the government now is in the unfortunate position, whether you like them or loathe them, that whatever they say they're going to do, you think, well, even if that is a good idea, it probably won't happen. So we're in a shocking position as a country where the government has no authority and no ability to excite or inspire businesses or the public.
But people should care about this, Andy, because lack of connectivity, particularly in the north, is really holding back the local economy. And I've lived in Yorkshire all my life until a year and a half ago. And when I started working in London, I was astounded how easy it is to get around, how quick it is to get from A to B, how much more incentivised you are to travel, to work, to spend money for leisure, whatever it is. Whereas certainly in some parts of Yorkshire, you might have two or three buses a day from one big town to another. It really, really inhibits the local economy. People should care about this. Why can't we get these rail lines built, get these buses in action? Why is there so much lethargy, particularly when it comes to northern places?
I think that the problem we all face is that these are very long-term projects, Miriam, and our government's thinking is, and probably always was for the large part, very short-term, thinking about the last opinion poll, the next opinion poll. So everybody's on the back foot all of the time. What we really need to deliver projects like this that do have value, we do need connectivity, we really do. We need a really long-term group of individuals, whether it's cross-party MPs, cross-party peers, I really don't know, but we need to take it out of day-to-day political shenanigans and opinion polls and fears about being re-elected and into a long-term decision-making process. That's the only way, because we do need this connectivity, and that's how we get people to grow their social lives, their personal lives, and their business lives and grow the economy. Connectivity is so important.
And finally on H2, all you need to know about HS2, they started with the London to Birmingham link. They didn't start with the Birmingham to Manchester link. The typical southeast mentality. But can I ask you about another story which made my jaw drop this week? And you will be aware that the last government approved plans for Eton College. We know Eton College very well. It's where many of our top people have been educated, was going to do a partnership with Star Academies, and there was going to be a sixth form college in Middlesbrough. This has now been scrapped by Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, who we know can't stand private schools because she slapped 25% VAT, was it 20% VAT on private schools. But this seems really, really, really pernicious. I think there were 480 places were going to be provided in this sixth form college in Middlesbrough. Are you disappointed?
I was heartbroken, Andrew. I was involved in the planning of this. I worked with the head of Eton, Simon Henderson, and others on this project. I personally earmarked a site for them and had it set aside and ring-fenced. And the idea was not just for Eton to bring money and expertise to lift expectation and to inspire kids. It wasn't just that, Andrew. It was going to be specifically targeted at the brightest kids from the most deprived backgrounds.
Yeah.
And it was, believe it or not, it was far left people in the Middlesbrough area, Corbynistas, that put the kibosh on this. There were 3 projects planned for Oldham, for Dudley and Middlesbrough, very left behind places, very challenged places. Middlesbrough's the most challenged, highest crime, the most deprivation of all of those places. But it was blocked because local Labour activists had this bizarre left-wing snobbery. They immediately, as soon as the project was discussed, they talked about elitism and how Eton, the local MP Andy MacDonald, Corbynista, even said publicly that Eton College was actually directly responsible for all of the country's problems. In an insane attitude, whether you love or loathe Eton, but to him it was a 4-letter word, E-T-O-N, and it raised his blood pressure, but they wanted to bring their own money and target it at the most deprived kids. Now, even after Bridget Phillipson smashed that 20% surcharge on private school fees that affected Eton and everywhere, they still wanted to bring their own money and help the most deprived kids, but she's blocked it. So I'm writing to her asking for a really clear explanation of what on earth has gone on.
And Andy, when you get the explanation, come back on and talk to us about it, because I'm with you. I think, as a comprehensive schoolboy, I think it's shameful what they've done here. Absolutely shameful. The worst sort of class war, MD, frankly.
Yeah,
Andy,
absolutely.
Preston,
Horrible.
thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Always good to talk to you, Andy.
It's just Marxism, isn't it? Not wanting anyone to excel and therefore cutting off the most
successful.
successful.
No money.
It's just...
We're providing their money. That's part of what a lot of these big private schools do. They give to the community.
Mad. Up next, Donald Trump tells Iran that help is on its way. That's as executions are set to take place today, including that of 26-year-old Irfan Soltani, an Iranian shopkeeper.
We'll be going through that and more with our very own Statler Waldorf, Stephen Pound and Mike Parry. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The University of Bristol has been threatened with legal action by a leading academic who led a recent government review into sex and gender data collection.
Well, Professor Alice Sullivan claims her freedom of speech was restricted after a talk she gave was disrupted by a trans rights protest.
Protesters actually scaled the walls of the building. We were in a first-floor lecture theatre, and they climbed the walls in order to bang on the windows and sort of howl through the windows. It felt incredibly surreal in there. It was like some kind of zombie apocalypse. And they were setting off fire alarms to very loudly disrupt my talk. Eventually, we had to all move to another lecture theatre. And I learned afterwards that people trying to attend the talk had been severely disrupted by protesters who were not asked to stand behind barriers or anything like that. They were just allowed to intimidate and obstruct people who had come to hear me speak.
It sounds like a fairly severe dereliction of duty on behalf of the university. I mean, obviously everyone has a right to protest anything, and you'd think at a university anyone would have a right to give a talk, and yet there is this sort of heckler's veto that some try to play to try and keep out ideas with which they disagree. I mean, it seems to just go against the fundamental ethos of what higher education should be in this country.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I fully support people's right to peaceful protest, but this was not a peaceful protest. It was really quite violent.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 25 minutes past 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Donald Trump says help's on the way to protesters across the country.
But first...
Before we get to that...
It's time for the Great British Giveaway.
It's a very bad segue. Very sorry about that.
But you can win £85,000, so make sure you're paying attention to this.
Just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. A whopping £85,000 cash could be yours. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £7,000 extra in your bank account each month for the whole of 2026. And remember, that £85,000 is totally tax-free, which means you get to keep every single penny of it. You have to hurry though, as lines close on the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hey. Oh, they're very
Well,
they're indie.
Welcome back. We're on air. And we're joined by broadcaster Mike Parry and former Labour politician Stephen Pound here in the studio to go through today's news. Welcome, gentlemen.
Stephen, are you dizzy? Are you dizzy after yet another U-turn from your fine government?
Well, it's only been 13 so far, but then, you know, the day is young. But
and Mr. Wes Streeting is definitely on manoeuvres, isn't he? I mean, you know, 12 hours before the latest
like you
U-turn.
didn't know that U-turn was...
Yeah. Oh, look, I'll invent this phrase about we've got to get it right first time. Because I know in a few hours we're going to get it wrong again.
Well, hang on a second. There's a real sort of dichotomy here. People are always accusing politicians of not listening, and yet when politicians do listen, they blame them for doing U-turns.
What, 13 times?
Yeah,
13 times we haven't listened.
That shows he's doing a lot of listening.
That they don't know what they're doing. They're not listening, and they're completely out of touch with the people who voted for them.
It Blair 10 years to get to 13 U-turns. Blair, 10 years to get to 13 U-turns. This shower, Mike,
shambles.
Power, not even 18 months.
Well, all I can say is it actually just shows that they are listening to people and actually taking advice from the people.
No, it doesn't, Steve. I've got to argue with it.
Sorry.
What it shows is they haven't got a clue what they're doing.
Imagine if they'd stuck to it and said,
they haven't got a clue what they're doing. How come they can keep issuing policy that's not been thought out, they don't know the consequences of it, and they're going to have to reverse it within months because they're hopelessly incompetent politicians and shouldn't be running a sweet shop on Southend Pier, let alone the United Kingdom government.
In September, he told us that this digital ID card was going to stop illegal migrants slipping into the shadow economy. Beautiful, evocative language. So what's changed since September?
Well, partly the cost.
What's changed is the moment he was associated with this policy, it tanked in the polls. Because he is the reverse Midas.
I have to say, don't forget, they're actually transferring that money. It was going to be set into frontlining policing and law and order. But I still believe, and I've said for many years, digital ID is a brilliant idea. We must be the only countries in Europe where you cannot practically prove that you're a citizen of that country.
Do you think it's a good idea?
I think it's a brilliant idea.
I think it's a hopeless imposition on our liberty. It hasn't helped the situation in any European country.
Oh, yes, it has.
Oh, no, it hasn't.
You don't have these car washes you have in the most...
Really? Well, how come more people get into Italy and Greece who've got identity cards and get into this country? It just doesn't work.
People show their identity cards on the way into Greece and Italy.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't think they do show them.
No, they do. It's what I'm saying. It's pointless.
And that's why so many people from Italy are being deported.
And do you think any car wash proprietor is actually saying, right, until I give you an illegal job here and a little bed in the back of the shed over there...
I'm just going to run through the U-turn. Grooming gangs, wasn't going to be an ass inquiry, there is now. We're not getting on very well. How the government measures debts, trans rights, the two-child benefit gap, state pension age for waspy women, they were going to get compensation, they're not getting it now. Winter fuel, they were going to have a winter fuel cut, reversed it. Benefit cuts, reversed the benefit cut. National insurance, lied about that. Income tax thresholds, workers' rights, inheritance tax on farms, business rate for pubs, digital IT cards. Next week it'll be business rates for hotels.
Well, can I just say, with one exception, every single one of those that you've listed out has not been abandoning a policy. It's actually been diluting or changing or tweaking a policy. It has not been a complete abandonment.
The problem is that they have no underlying philosophy of government. They don't know what they want to achieve.
That's right.
They are therefore rooting around for policies that might be popular or might fill a hole in the budget.
They take it off the shelf. Try that.
Conviction about how to deliver it. But the previous government suffered from the same malaise.
No, but Keir Starmer is looking at the world through a telescope which says, where can I find some voters? He hasn't got any policies, he hasn't got any commitments. He doesn't say, I want to fix the United Kingdom and make it better. What he's saying is, I need to extend my lifetime as a Prime Minister, and to do that, I've got to try and find something people like.
To be fair, come on, just for a second, I believe in fair play, and I think this station believes in fair play too. Starmer is not the sort of person who would actually put his own personal ambitions ahead of the country. You must accept
yes, he is.
Oh,
yes,
sorry,
he is.
very, very.
Yes, he is.
If
What's
Keir
an unusual
Starmer thought
politician?
that this country, the economy would grow by him resigning, he'd probably do it tomorrow.
That's such a nonsense.
Come on, he is not a career politician. He is not a man who is dead set on climbing the greasy pole. And he's a man who
He's climbed the greasy pole. He's
climbed the greasy pole. He's come into politics still 6 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it shows.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it shows.
Yeah, but the real point here is that the government does have a determination for growth for the country.
But everything they do kills growth, Stephen. You know that.
But to
everything
get growth,
they do
you
kills
have
growth.
to invest. Look at this proposal for extending the railway line, extending up to Manchester. A superb idea.
Hang on,
but you've got to get the money.
We've learned this week that the green policies are going to cost £4.5 trillion.
Sorry, no.
How is that investing?
That is
How is that investing? We're all going bankrupt.
If you still smoked, I'd say that was on the back of a fag packet, because that is a ludicrous figure. I've seen that figure. It's an estimate of what might happen for the next 30 years. Come on, that's absolute
22 billion on carbon capture.
It's joke
We haven't got a
economics.
carbon capture system.
Mike, they are fair criticisms of Starmer, but they are the same criticisms that you could make of Boris Johnson.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Which politicians do we have that actually do have conviction about what they're going to do and will stick with it even if it's unpopular?
Well, this is why the most interesting political story at the moment, I think, is Reform and the Tories now starting to not deny as much as they used to that there is a way they can work together, because I think they're starting to see the light. I think they're starting to say, look, you know, if we don't, then there could be this horrible coalition of the left-wing groups, including Green and the
Greens,
Dems, who come
terrifying.
through. So what I'm saying is, they're so bad now, Labour, so bad, that they're driving the other parties to look more pragmatically at how they can oppose them and beat them and not tribally try and attack them. Do you see what I mean?
If you're looking at a party which has actually simply got one determination policy, you look at people like Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultan, people who say, nationalise all the sweet shops and tax the rich. I'd rather have a little bit of pragmatism. And if that means a U-turn, so be it.
Right, on that point,
well,
gentlemen,
as long
we'll
as the
see you.
nationalised sweet shops
Yes,
available.
Don't nationalise
on South
sweet
Empire.
shops.
Exactly.
We're going to go now to our 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at 10:33. The top story this hour: the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police is under growing pressure to resign. That's after admitting he used AI to give MPs false evidence about banning Israeli football fans. Craig Guilford says the system invented a previous match that never happened. The Home Secretary is set to make a statement later in the Commons. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has confirmed pubs will get more temporary support after an outcry over a sharp rise in business rates, easing back from a budget decision. She admits some pubs face a big increase despite a £4.3 billion transition fund, with extra help promised in the next few days and weeks. Donald Trump has warned Iran the US will take very strong action if protesters are executed. That's as more than 2,400 people are now feared dead. A 26-year-old protester is reportedly days from execution. The UK, meanwhile, has summoned Iran's ambassador and imposed new sanctions, with the Home Secretary calling the killings horrendous. The government has dropped plans to force workers to sign up to digital ID to prove their right to work. Digital checks will still arrive by 2029, but registration will now be optional. It's a clear U-turn from the Prime Minister's pledge that people won't be able to work without the ID. And at least 25 people have been killed after a construction crane collapsed onto a moving train in Thailand. Nearly 200 people were on board when the carriages were crushed and caught fire. Rescuers are still searching the wreckage. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with a full roundup at 11.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Up next, Ed Miliband. You know him, the eco-fanatic in the Cabinet. He's approved plans for a dozen new offshore wind farms around Britain's coastlines, awarding up to £1.8 billion in subsidies to green energy developers. Dear God, when does it end?
I don't know.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
now, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Well, it's a cold start, but a fine start for most of us. More rain and showers turning up later. It will feel chilly with some hill snow or even some low-level snow to come in a few spots across northern parts of the UK. We've got slippery surfaces to watch out for throughout much of Scotland first thing, but dry with building cloud from the west and a lot of fine weather for England and Wales. Plenty of sunny spells. However, in the south, there is some low cloud arriving with patchy rain. Feeling cold, 7 or 8 Celsius at best. 4 to 6 across northern parts of the UK. Not as cold as it was last week, of course, but it will feel chillier compared with Tuesday's mild weather. Now, by the end of the afternoon, we've got outbreaks of rain arriving into western Scotland. That's going to push into the cold air. We'll see a spell of hill snow throughout much of central Scotland. Northern Ireland, a dreary end to Wednesday, with those outbreaks of rain continuing through much of the afternoon, only clearing slowly by evening. West Wales, Cornwall, seeing those outbreaks of rain arrive, mostly showery in nature, and we do have some showers, some heavy downpours into the southeast during the evening. So spells of rain or showers for most on Thursday morning as we go through the early hours. Flakes of snow over northern parts of the UK. Could be a touch of snow at lower levels for northeast England, eastern Scotland. But like I say, nowhere near the kind of snow that we have seen through January so far. Brighter skies follow for Thursday morning into Wales, northwest England, much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, albeit with further showers. However, already we've got the next spell of rain pushing into a large part of England and Wales. A little bit of uncertainty about the precise location of this heavy rain. Could be a bit further west into southeast Wales, southwest England. Could cause a few issues with some very heavy rain at times.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M8 westbound, one lane is partially blocked over the White Cart Viaduct between junction 27 and junction 28. In Durham, the A19 northbound between the A182 and the A1018 has lane closures after a crash, with delays of around 30 minutes until after midday. In Cheshire, the M6 northbound between junction 18 and junction 19 has a broken down vehicle, with one lane shut until after 10:30. And on the trains, Gatwick Express is disrupted to and from London Victoria, and Great Western Railway has replacement buses. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It is 22 minutes to 11 and you're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, what is his title? His title is Net Zero. Net Zero and Net Zero. He's got Net Zero in his title.
I'm sure it's his middle name.
Yeah. What was his title?
Energy Security and Net Zero Secretary
honestly.
Ed Miliband.
He's approved plans for a dozen new offshore wind farms around Britain's coastline, giving nearly £2 billion in subsidies to green energy developers. So what we're saying is you're paying for them.
Well, this initiative follows round 7 of the allocation auction of renewables contracts and represents one of the UK's largest ever subsidy rounds.
The cost, according to the government, will help the UK achieve net zero emissions and will be covered by bill payers over a 20-year period.
Well, we're now joined by the Shadow Secretary for Energy and Net Zero, Claire Coutinho. Claire, good morning. Thank you so much for coming on the programme.
Good morning.
Now, good morning. The last time the government did a round for bids for wind energy, nobody wanted to bid. Nobody wanted to take that risk. What's happened this time? What's the difference?
Well, Ed Miliband has massively raised the prices. This is the difference. What he is paying is the highest prices that we've seen for offshore wind in a decade, far higher prices than the current cost of electricity. And what he's trying to promise people is that he's going to use this to somehow lower bills. But I'm afraid it simply makes no sense. He said to people that he was going to cut their bills by £300, and people's bills have actually gone up by £200 thanks to his policies since the election. And this is only going to make things worse because these contracts, not only are they extremely expensive now, they're inflation linked, which means they're going to keep going up and up. And he's extended the length of those contracts to 20 years. So it's not just what you and I will be paying. This is what our children will be paying as well.
Will we be paying this money, Shadow Secretary? Is it through our energy bills? Will it be in our electric and gas bills? Is that how we're going to pay for this?
Well, this is all going on people's bills.
Yeah.
And what's not included in that £95, which, as I said, is already extremely expensive, is all the extra costs that come with wind power. So you've got to pay for all of the connections to the grid. You've got to pay wind farms to turn off when it's too windy. And you've got to pay for all of those other costs that come with them, like having something that sits in the background as a backup. So this is actually going to be incredibly expensive power for the country. And that's a massive problem, because when it comes to our energy system, we actually have some of the cleanest energy anywhere in the world, but it is the most expensive electricity. And that's why our priority is that we've got to lower the prices. We've got to lower it for people who are sat at home wondering if they can pay their bills. We've got to lower it for industry, because at the moment what Ed Miliband is doing is locking us into these incredibly uncompetitive prices for decades.
So how would you cut the prices?
So we are the only party who've got a cheap power plan that we've carefully worked out, which would cut electricity bills by 20% now. And then we've got to put cheaper energy in the system. So when I was Secretary of State in that year before the election, I started in the department a true costing of renewables to look at these prices, because I could see that what the department was using didn't add up. Ed's cancelled that. But we have to get real. These are not cheap wind farms that are coming online. It's not going to lower bills, and that has to be our biggest priority. And like I said, it's not just for living standards. It's also that we can have a successful industry in this country, and the world is getting more and more dangerous. We need to have cheap, reliable energy.
But Claire, the only answer to that is either fossil fuels or nuclear. I mean, at source, renewable energies are cheap. The sun doesn't cost anything, the wind doesn't cost anything, but the infrastructure to run these renewables, to extract the energy from these natural sources, is very, very expensive. Nobody's found a way of reducing those fixed costs yet. Are you arguing, actually, that we should return to reliance on fossil fuels or nuclear?
So I do think the answer is more gas power plants, which, by the way, Ed needs to build in his system anyway. He just lets them sit idle for most of the time. I don't know if you would buy a house that you only use 4% of the year, but that's what he wants to do with gas power plants. And you need to have something when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. And then nuclear, I think, is also a big part of the answer. But more than that, Miriam, it's the fact that we're not looking at these things honestly. And you're right, it is expensive. But when people say the wind is free, well, not on these contracts, because every time the wind blows and that gets used by the system, you're going to be paying £95, which will go up by inflation every single year. And you also have to pay those wind farms to turn off when it's too windy. What other factory are we paying to turn off and not produce things? It's completely absurd. So we need to get real. We need to be honest about the energy system and what we wanted to do for the country. And like I said, the Conservatives' priority is that it provides us with cheap, reliable energy.
All right, thank you for joining us. That's Claire Coutinho, who's the Shadow Secretary for Energy and Net Zero. It's hard for him to sell this, I think.
It is. It's all very sensible what Claire Coutinho was saying, but we have to face the fact that the journey to over-reliance on renewables started, or at least was continued, under the Conservatives.
Well,
huge amounts of money have been spent on this.
Didn't Theresa May enshrine the commitment to net zero in law?
Exactly.
A Conservative Prime Minister did it.
And it's not been as cheap as we were told, and it's not reliable.
Rishi extended the deadline to get rid of
petrol and diesel
cars to 2035.
I think that'll be scrapped completely eventually.
Well, it should be.
But we are in a bind now because people took their eye off the ball when it came to nuclear, which means that we are going to struggle to fulfil our nuclear needs. Sizewell C is not even really being commenced yet, so there are some problems in our supply.
And there's some problems in Birmingham, where we're going to go to West Midlands Police HQ shortly, because pressure is mounting on the Chief Constable, Craig Guilford, to resign after his clownish performance, frankly, at the Select Committee of MPs last week about his decision to ban fans from an Israeli football club going to a football match in Birmingham. Staggeringly, he used AI technology as part of his evidence, which referred to a football match which actually never even happened. Can you believe it? And he's still in his job for now.
Well, that's all coming up after the forecast for European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of fine weather across Europe at the moment, particularly central and southeastern areas. It's mild in Italy with sunny spells, but the one place where it is going to be unsettled on Thursday, Portugal. Heavy rain accompanied by strong winds. That system's going to move into Spain later in the day and affect parts of France. Italy, a few showers towards the north, otherwise plenty of warm, sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens, and it stays fine in Italy for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray,
Are you a human trafficker?
boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's nearly 10 to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, it's getting much worse, and rightly so, for the West Midlands Police Chief Craig Guilford. He's apologised for an error in evidence over his decision to ban those football fans from the Maccabi Tel Aviv Football Club who were playing a match in Birmingham a few weeks ago.
Well, in a letter to the Home Affairs Select Committee, he has blamed artificial intelligence and an incorrect Google search for the mistake. Well, it comes as he faces mounting pressure to resign over the ban.
And not just a mistake, involving a football match that didn't exist. And he's also been rebuked by the Dutch police, who say the report he refers to, where they said this football team's fans from Israel were so appalling, that report didn't exist.
It's a story that has changed many times, because initially the police said that they couldn't go ahead with the fans coming to the match because the fans themselves would be in danger.
That's right.
Then it became that the local community would be in danger because the fans were too violent, based on this report. And then underlying this has been the community tensions, in inverted commas, basically a high local Muslim population, and the fear was that pro-Palestine protests would actually put the visiting fans, Israelis and the local Jewish community at risk.
And it now seems that the Chief Consul's main interest was to placate the local Muslim community. Let's talk to our GB News West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson, who's outside the police HQ. Are you on resignation watch, Jack? Morning.
Hopefully not him.
Well, of course, Siobhan Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has got the report from His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary. She's reading that. She will give a statement to the Commons later today where she could withdraw her confidence in the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Craig Guilford. But ultimately, it is Simon Foster, the Police and Crime Commissioner, who legally is the only person who can remove the Chief Constable. But pressure is certainly mounting. This West Ham game, which didn't exist, as you rightly mentioned, was questioned in the Home Affairs Select Committee when the West Midlands Police and Craig Guilford attended, both in December and the second time in January. Now, on the 1st of December, he'd said that it was a result from some social media scraping that had been done, but it was one element out of 8 or 9 pages of a report that they said they still stood by. Then on the 6th of January, when questioned whether they'd used AI again, and whether that had been used, they said that we did not use AI. He was under the suggestion that it came from a Google search. But today, as you say, he's had to write in a letter of apology to Karen Bradley, the chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, saying he would like to offer his profound apology for the error that in fact AI was used, and it arose as a result, they say in that letter, as a use of Microsoft Copilot. They had, of course, previously insisted that AI had not been used at all. Usually officers have a system that they can go to look through previous reports that have been written after football matches have taken place. They couldn't find the West Ham Maccabi Tel Aviv game. No wonder, because it didn't exist in the first place. And so this, of course, was entered into the report that was sent to the Home Affairs Select Committee. They themselves are coming up with a report which Simon Foster, the Police and Crime Commissioner, says he also wants to consider to help inform any kind of decision that he may make over the future of the Chief Constable here, Craig Guilford. He has had confidence in him in the past few years, praised him for cutting crime and improving the force, but there's no doubt that pressure is certainly mounting, and we'll wait to hear what Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, says today in the Commons as whether she still has confidence in the Chief Constable here. But last week, the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch said that the West Midlands Police had capitulated to Islamists on that decision to ban Israeli fans, and said that she certainly didn't have any confidence in the Chief Constable of the West Midlands Police. But we await for that Home Secretary statement to the Commons a little bit later on.
All right, Jack, that's Jack Carson in Birmingham outside the West Midlands Police HQ. The Chief Constable has got doomed written on his forehead.
It doesn't seem he'll be able to survive. But I don't think it's only him responsible. We need to look at the whole setup of how policing is trying to appease the community rather than implement the law. What role did the local mosque have in bringing about this ban? There's many questions to answer.
The signal it sent around the world was that Jewish football fans are not safe in this country, which was a terrible signal to send out.
So I don't think, even if he does go, I think there needs to be much more investigation.
Absolutely. Still ahead, the latest U-turn from Labour and more humiliation for the Prime Minister. It's digital ID cards this time. Good riddance, but another U-turn. Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. The driest day of the week for many of us throughout today. Heavy rain will move into southern areas into Thursday, with the potential for some quite strong winds. That's as these fronts develop into an area of low pressure through this evening. But before then, ahead of that, we've got a ridge of higher pressure through much of today. So plenty of sunshine to come, particularly across England and Wales, and some eastern areas of Scotland seeing dry weather through much of the day. But as we look further west, into parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, we'll see strengthening winds and some heavy bursts of rain as well through this evening. It will be quite a chilly day, particularly compared to the past couple of days after that frosty start this morning. But with the lighter winds and sunshine in the east, I think it won't feel too bad at all. But the wet weather will become more widespread through this evening, and some of that rain will fall as snow over northern areas, particularly over the high ground of Scotland. But we could see some sleety snow across lower levels just for a time into this evening across parts of Scotland and into northern England as this band of rain moves eastwards. A band of rain will push up into more southern eastern areas of England as well into this evening. So quite a lot more cloud around as we end the day than we will have started with, and wet weather will push eastwards throughout tonight. As I said, potentially some sleety snow falling across lower levels of northern England, but very little in the way of accumulations. Then as the night goes on, some clearer skies developing for more central areas into Northern Ireland and Wales. A chilly night here under those clearer skies, but cloud will begin to thicken across the southeast by tomorrow morning. That's as this area of low pressure starts to develop along the south coast, and we do have a rain warning in force for many southern and eastern areas of England, so there'll likely be some disruption throughout the day due to the quite persistent rainfall. That could push into parts of Wales further southwest as well, and we'll likely see some strengthening winds into the evening. Have a great day.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 14th of January, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, another Labour U-turn from the government, and the Prime Minister has ditched plans for compulsory digital ID, the 13th policy reversal since May. Well, the shadow Foreign Secretary, Priti Patel, told GB News it was never going to work anyway.
It's never a serious policy. When it was announced, Keir Starmer said that it's going to stop the small boats, and it was all about illegal migration. Well, the only way you stop illegal migration is by having a strong deterrent.
And breaking news, the pressure growing on the West Midlands Police Chief Craig Guilford to quit. He's had to apologise to MPs for misleading them, blaming the use of AI in the evidence he gave.
And President Donald Trump has promised help is on its way to Iran as he warns of very strong action if the Iranians carry through with threats to execute protesters today.
And amid that fighting talk from Donald Trump, there are now reports that US personnel are being advised to leave the Al Udeid air base in Qatar. Some 10,000 personnel based there. So we're asking, is that strike incoming?
And the government is promising a new rail link between Birmingham and Manchester. Sound familiar? Just 2 years after the last government scrapped HS2, another grand announcement, but we're asking, will it happen? And when will it happen?
And there's no water for a fifth day for thousands of homes across Kent and Sussex as a major incident is declared.
Well, I'm in at Tunbridge Wells, where a major incident has been declared here. I'm at a water station speaking to very frustrated residents, as this is the second outage in just months.
Now, that copper didn't just resign immediately. Why is he waiting to be fired? Perhaps that's all to do with his payoff.
Well, I think there's much more to come out about the whole story, even to do with how he was appointed in the first place and who was on the board that made their decision. I think the final decision to whether or not he should go rests with the Police and Crime Commissioner, but we are expecting some sort of statement in the House of Commons later, so we will see what the Home Secretary has to say.
And Siobhan Mahmood, the Home Secretary, she's a Birmingham MP. She had a direct constituency interest in this football match, and there's criticism about what she did or didn't know as well. So I wonder if she'll make the statement or somebody else and then we'll make it.
Indeed, and it has thrown up the dangers of using AI and relying on ChatGPT for writing reports can be very helpful, but without any fact-checking. A fictitious football match.
A fictitious football match.
No football fans spotted that match had never
He's
happened.
a chief constable, and he was talking about a fictitious football match. I think it's staggering. We want to know what you think on all your talking points today.
Go to gbnews.com/your say, but first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 3 minutes past 11, rather. The top story this hour, as we were just hearing, the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police has apologised to MPs after admitting he used artificial intelligence to give wrong evidence about banning Israeli football fans. Craig Guilford says AI falsely produced details of a match that never happened, which was then used to justify stopping Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters from attending a game at Aston Villa. Pressure is now growing on him to resign, with the Home Secretary set to make a statement in Parliament later today. A government watchdog has already handed its findings to ministers. The Chancellor has announced a Let's start that one again. Goodness me, it's been a long morning. The Chancellor has announced a climb down on business rates, confirming pubs will get more temporary support after an outcry from landlords. Rachel Reeves says COVID-era relief does have to end, but admits for some pubs there is still a big increase as rates rise after property re-evaluations. Ministers have already set aside £4.3 billion to cushion the blow, with more help promised in the next few days and weeks. It's the latest in a string of U-turns for Sir Keir Starmer's government, but Rachel Reeves insists the priority is getting it right for struggling pubs. President Donald Trump has warned Iran the United States will take very strong action if protesters are executed. That comes as human rights groups say more than 2,400 demonstrators have already been killed in violent crackdowns. One 26-year-old protester, Irfan Soltani, is now reportedly facing execution within just days. Donald Trump told US television that the United States would act accordingly if killings continue.
Well, now we're hearing that they're going to start hanging protesters tomorrow. So it comes back to the question, have they crossed your red line or has the line moved?
I haven't heard about the hanging. If they hang them, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
And this strong action you're talking about, what's the end game?
The end game is to win. I like winning.
Well, Iran blames terrorists for the violence, but Washington says it's now weighing its next move. Meanwhile, in London, the Foreign Secretary has summoned Iran's ambassador and announced new sanctions, warning the true scale of violence may be far worse than reported. Yesterday, she told MPs in the Commons that the UK condemns the regime for the brutal killing of protesters.
The UK has already designated key players in Iran's oil, energy, nuclear and financial systems. Further measures will target finance, energy, transport, software and other significant industries which are advancing Iranian nuclear escalation. And we will work further with the EU and other partners to explore what additional measures might now be needed in response to developments.
The government has dropped plans to force workers to sign up to a digital ID scheme to prove their right to work in the UK. Ministers will, though, still move to digital checks by 2029, using things like biometric passports, but signing up to the new ID scheme will now be optional. It's a clear U-turn from Sir Keir Starmer's pledge that people won't be able to work in the UK without that digital ID. Opposition parties have welcomed the climb down, calling it a victory for civil liberties, while ministers insist digital ID will still transform public services. And at least 25 people have been killed after a construction crane collapsed onto a moving train in Thailand. The crash happened in Ratchasima, north of Bangkok, with rescuers still pulling bodies from the wreckage and warning the death toll could still rise further. Nearly 200 passengers and staff were on board when the carriage was crushed, sparking a fire and trapping people inside. Rail bosses there have now ordered a thorough investigation into just what happened. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you shortly. Now, though, it's back to Britain's Newsroom.
Hello, good morning. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Have they been getting in touch? I think they have.
We have got lots of people getting in touch. Lots of different stories in the papers today. Let's have a look. Lots of comments about HS2, of course. It is still scrapped. But some of the lines are being reinstated as part of the Northern Rail plan. But Philip says HS2 is rearing its ugly head again. There's more to this than helping the public save a bit of travelling time. And Andrew, you've already pointed out that you'll be in your 90s by the time this railway line is built.
I think I'll be about 143 by the time it ever opens. It is a joke. We are so bad at these major construction projects. It is HS2 was 140 miles of railway. That's all it was.
Yeah.
It was conceived in 2009. It was conceived by the last Labour government, 2009. And here we are, 2026.
We scrapped it and spent billions of pounds. The Victorians will be turning in their graves. They knew how to do this. Well, let's move on to some big international news because President Trump has sent another strong warning to Iran, threatening to take action against the regime if protesters are executed.
Well, now we're hearing that they're going to start hanging protesters tomorrow. So it comes back to the question, have they crossed your red line or has the line moved?
I haven't heard about the hanging. If they hang them, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
And this strong action you're talking about, what's the end game?
The end game is to win. I like winning.
Well, the White House has urged Americans to flee the country as speculation of US military action continues to rise.
And Irfan Sultani, a 26-year-old shopkeeper, is poised to be the first person executed later today. There's talk he'll just have 10 minutes or half an hour with his family. GB News national presenter Charlie Peters here. Charlie, are we teetering on the edge?
Well, it certainly looks like that, especially if you take the latest bit of information we've got from the Reuters news agency that personnel are being advised now to leave the Al Udeid airbase, the main US airbase in the region, in Qatar. Some 10,000 personnel are based there. There seems to be quite light sort of Air Force presence on the tarmac at the moment, a handful of heavy lift C-17 cargo planes and also some tankers for refuelling. But as we've seen before in previous engagements, very recently with the US bombing in Syria and Iran last year, they don't need to have a lot of assets nearby. They can fly them directly from Missouri, those B-52s, those B-2 bombers rather, last year that we saw striking those Iranian nuclear facilities. So this was what happened last year as well. During that 12-day war between Israel and Iran, when the US struck, we did also see advice people to leave Qatar before that took place. So it could be an indication that the same is happening. But also, the US are masters of this, of deploying decoys to make people think that something could be happening, to make us all look in one direction, while in another, something more serious is happening. And I think President Trump's regular, very structured and very sure interventions, what he's saying about what the US could do, is part of a communication strategy to keep the Iranians very nervous indeed. But how they're acting and what we're seeing them do today with this likely upcoming execution of that 26-year-old Irfan Soltani does point to a state that has very little else to offer to deal with these protesters. All they have now is fear and repression.
But some commentators are saying that US action could backfire, that it could inspire a new loyalty to the regime if the Americans get involved. And there are reports that the Israelis are actually advising the US to wait, that the regime isn't weak enough yet to strike. Do you think that the Trump regime, the Trump administration will be listening to the Israelis, or are they just acting independently?
Well, it's not just the Israelis, Arab officials as well, also telling the US, please wait. Don't go ahead now. That's according to some reporting we've seen in the United States. They want them to wait until the regime is further stretched. There are protests now in all 31 of the country's provinces. And also the Mossad are said to believe that, so this Israeli spy agency, that the number of people killed is actually far higher than some of the...
12,000.
12,000 in CBS News. I don't have a direct line to the Israeli intelligence agency, but they're said to think it's perhaps not as high as that, but at least double the 2,500 that's being reported by some human rights monitors. So they want it to go a bit further, apparently, according to these reports. The US officials, the Arab and Israeli officials wanting it to be further stretched so that any strike will have a bit more of an impact.
And what of Israel? Because they were involved with America last time, Charlie, during the 12-day... I know we call it a 12-day war, but it seemed to me like a 12-day bombardment of Iran. And then Iran made a very limited...
a signposted response.
Exactly. Doing the least they could do. Is Israel limbering up to be involved, do you think?
I think limbering up is certainly the way to put it, because before the intervention in Venezuela, all the reports coming out of Israeli media, who are very close to their intelligence and security establishment, nothing happens at the sort of close to occur level within Israeli military planning without certain channels and reports being briefed there quite quickly. So they're very close. So we have seen a very sudden change in the Israeli posture since the Venezuelan intervention, with news media in Israel saying that before then they thought it was highly unlikely that some regime change would be possible. But now everything has changed since one of Iran's closest allies was toppled by that daring strike in Caracas 2 weekends ago. And Israel would be very closely involved if the US did choose to strike. Well, we spoke about those limited assets in Qatar. The Israeli military could essentially act as an extension of the US Air Force with its wide array of American firepower in Israel, American-made jets, and a lot of interoperability between the two nations. They would undoubtedly be involved. I would just say one more thing about the assets that the US has on the ground right now. 4 years ago, they tested this extraordinary capability called Rapid Dragon, which allows the US to drop palletized cruise missiles out the back of a cargo plane, which then fall, launch out, and then prosecute and strike any targets that they want. This was tested in Norway in 2022. It's not been deployed in anger since. But those 4 cargo planes sitting on the tarmac on Al Udeid right now, they could strike hundreds of targets by taking off within an hour, sending hundreds of missiles into Iran. So that capability is in the US arsenal. And when Donald Trump says he's locked and loaded, these cargo planes could be too.
Absolutely. Fascinating.
That is extraordinary. Well, we will be monitoring that closely, Charlie. Thank you very much.
Now, Sir Keir Starmer shelved plans for compulsory digital ID cards after a backlash against the policy, not least from his own party. It's now going to be a voluntary scheme from 2029. This now is a 13th U-turn to Labour's very large collection of U-turns.
Well, originally it was sold as tough action on illegal migration, but the climb down leaves a glaring question: what now replaces it?
So, a reminder, you can vote on this. Friends of GB News can vote in today's U-turn side poll for free by scanning the QR code. And we are asking, is he right to keep making U-turns? That's the Prime Minister. Let us know what you think. We'll bring you those results shortly.
Well, the Executive Director of Politics and Policy at the Tony Blair Institute, Ryan Wayne, joins us now. Ryan, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme. You must be pretty disappointed in this U-turn.
Morning, Miriam, morning, Andrew. Look, I'll be honest, when I saw the headlines last night and it said Labour Party, UK government U-turn on digital ID, I nearly fell off my chair. And then I did what my nan always taught me to do and read the actual story. And it wasn't that at all. It was a change in approach, but not a change in direction. And that's absolutely right, because, look, our view was always that the thing that makes digital ID not just important, but actually essential for the future of this country is that it can transform public services. It can give us improvements in education, in health, in welfare, in how we interact with the state in general. And this is still on the cards. So we'll be doing everything we can to keep making the case and making the argument for digital ID. My understanding is that whilst it may have changed in terms of the requirement to use it for right-to-work checks, it's not gone anywhere when it comes to being a tool that the UK can use to upgrade the state and upgrade government.
You're content, but we have gone from a compulsory card, Ryan, to a voluntary one, and some people are telling me that actually this is just going to fizzle out completely.
Compulsory versus voluntary. I don't think it will fizzle out completely, because for me, the opportunity for the government, and I said this on this programme about a year ago to yourselves, is that we just need to make this as brilliant as it can be, to the point where you don't have to mandate it for anyone to use. People will want to use it. At the moment, I don't want to have to turn up to a public building between the hours of 9 and 5 and bring endless papers with me. I want a digital ID that I can use that will just give me the same experience I have outside the government, with all the services I interact with. And it reminds me a bit of online shopping, for example. I remember years ago my mum saying, never again, never will I shop online. And then it just became brilliant. And it became not just the alternative to the old way of doing things, but the better way. And that's what we've got to see government as. I don't think there's any of your viewers looking at government services or interacting with government services and thinking, this is spot on, this is brilliant, we don't need to change it. I think everyone recognises that we need an evolution, an upgrade, a transformation there. And that's the real opportunity for digital ID. And to be honest, my criticism of government would be that they didn't make the case strong enough for why digital ID is going to be so essential for the future of government and the future of this country. But now I think there's a huge opportunity for them to do so. And look, we need to debate and discuss and consult on all of the key parts that make up a digital ID. Of course we do, we're in a democracy, we should embrace that. But I don't think today signals the end of this. In fact, far from it. I think it's showing that digital ID is still very much on the table, but we are having that live debate and we're working out the details of what it looks like when it actually gets rolled out.
Ryan, do you understand why people are fairly sceptical of your motive, the motive of Tony Blair and others who've been associated with this project for decades? It seems that every time there's an opportunity, no matter what the events, what the politics, the changes in technology, every time there's an opportunity, somebody associated with Tony Blair pops up and says, the answer to this problem is digital ID or an ID card. People are very wary of the reasons for this, and they fear that actually it will become an instrument of state control, even if that isn't the stated aim. Do you understand those concerns?
I do, but I think they are fuelled by people who have very low ambition, actually, for this country, who don't believe that we can be like the 81 countries around the world who already have a digital ID. 51 of those are developed countries with booming economies, and actually 2 of those top the charts when it comes to freedom and civil liberties, Estonia and Denmark. A digital ID, if you get it right, it gives you control of your data. You're able to see who's tried to access it. At the moment, we are completely blind to that. So, if anything, this should be about empowering the citizens. And like I say, we need to make the case much more strongly and much more coherently for why digital ID matters for the future of this country. We can't carry on as we are, where public services are crumbling where they belong in the 1950s, frankly. We need to change them, upgrade them, and I bet you, give me 2 years, come back on this programme, and we'll be talking about how fantastic digital ID and digital-enabled public services are, and why we all love our digital IDs.
Can I ask you just briefly, Ryan, your boss is a very telegenic, persuasive character, won 3 general elections. Are we going to hear from him making the case for digital ID? Because we know he's a big fan.
I think it probably depends on how good a job I'm doing, to be honest, so let's find out.
Well, you're doing a very good job, Ryan. All right,
Thank you, Ryan Wade.
Lovely
Thank
to talk
you so
to you.
much from
Cheers,
the Tony
guys.
Blair
Thank you.
Institute. Well, if it works that well, he's very welcome to come back on, but I'm sceptical as to how a digital ID card will improve our public services.
My prediction, there'll be no digital ID card up and running before the next general election.
Or possibly ever. We'll see.
Up next.
1 in 5 Brits admit to having a side hustle. Is this because the cost of living has gone too far skywards?
And we'll be going through that and more with Statler Waldorf, our very own Stephen Pound and Mike Parry. There they are. The gruesome twosome, the gorgeous twosome. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It is 11:24. You're with Britain's News with GB News, Andrew Pearce and Miriam. Lots to go through the papers, including 1 in 5 Brits admitting to have a side hustle to bring in extra cash. Apparently, Stephen pound has been on the game. And
so this is my side hustle.
Here's another way you could get some extra cash. It's called the Great British Giveaway.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. What would you spend all of that cash on? 2026 could be the year you spend more time spending with an incredible £85,000 in your bank. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, welcome back. We're joined now by broadcaster Mike Parry and former Labour Party MP Stephen Pound here in the studio to discuss the news.
You're very worried about this guy being hanged, aren't you?
Well, you know, I've done Middle East politics on the ground. You know, I've been out there and covered wars and saw the Americans bomb Tripoli in Libya. Now, I know we're talking here about Iran, but I mean, if this goes as it could go, this guy, whose name is Efran Soltani, could be hanged by in the most brutal way they do it. They have a crane on like that.
I think we need it. We don't need that.
No. They dangle a rope from the crane, and then there is no trapdoor. The crane is lifted like that, and that's the method by which they hang people publicly. And they sometimes do it in football stadiums like it's a sport. But this young man, 26, Efran Soltani, convicted of waging war against God. I mean, this is the type of medieval barbarity we're having to suffer in the West. And my view is that when President Trump was unable to specify what he had in mind in terms of retaliation if this happens, when he was asked by a reporter last night, that's because I don't think he knew. I think he's still weighing it up.
Well, it is a difficult...
very difficult.
...decision for Trump, because he's made this promise to the Iranian people, but... What are his options? To take out military targets, to take out regime targets, to put boots on the ground? I mean, there is a big risk in any of these interventions.
Well, it's also it's very, very difficult to actually have precision bombing, so you can actually hit the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. You just can't do it.
Exactly, and there's 150,000 of them anyway.
Well, there's a couple of things. Firstly, you know, I've been to Iran too, and I have to say, there's very few people I found on this who are as delightful, welcoming, intelligent. The Iranian people I met are fabulous people. It's a very ancient civilization. It's a great... But what we have there, the problem we have is there's no unified opposition. You know, you've got maybe the Shah's son, we've got Miriam Rajavi from the National Council of Resistance Front. You've got so many different people. Whereas when the Shah fell, you had Khomeini at the time. There was a unified opposition. There's no figure. And the problem is, as long as you don't have that unifying figure, and this is a huge country after all, then
population 90 million.
I know. And look at the average age. Under 30 is the average age of that. But it has the potential. I mean, you just look at the Iranian people we know in this country. But the key is, what exactly could he do? I mean, they're talking about they've got 2,000 heavy ballistic missiles, and so they could certainly destroy Israel. If it's 2,000, you could easily do it. But there's also all the other targets, the UAE, all the way around there. So economic sanctions will probably work, but in the long term.
But surely it's going to be it's going to be an internal thing, isn't it? You can bet your life there must be thousands of CIA agents on the streets of Tehran.
Well, Mossad have probably got a brigade.
Yeah, but I bet the CIA must be there as well, because...
Well, the CIA aren't very clever.
Well, hang on, they were pretty clever in Venezuela. So I'm thinking they've got some sort of super unit, you know, inside the CIA who are practising doing these sort of things. I think it's got to be an internal shock, whether they take out the elite, you know, Iranian Guard, whether they take out...
the Supreme Leader.
Exactly.
One thing, well, don't forget, the Supreme Leader...
Because they've taken out the Supreme Leader before. They hit his helicopter helicopter and brought him down,
That's
didn't they?
right, they did.
Yeah.
Mossadegh, yeah. But don't forget, the Supreme Leader, the present one, has actually named 3 successors, and each one of those 3 people are in different parts of the country.
Right.
But look, the one thing that could actually unite the country would be if America was perceived to be trying to do what they did with Mossadegh, when they actually they defenestrated him and got rid of him. He was the socialist leader back in 1953.
Yes.
And so that would actually unite the country. And I think that's the terrible, terrible danger. You could actually make it worse.
And he knows that, and he's not a fool.
I'm glad he knows that. Yeah,
He does know that.
But don't forget, Venezuela took at least 6 months of planning.
Yeah.
At least 6
Well,
months.
I think they've been planning.
Oh, I'm sure they have. I mean, they knocked out their
It was
nuclear.
June when we had the
Knocked out the
12-day bomb.
nuclear
But
capability.
what's so interesting here is that one of Trump's selling points in his election campaign was that he was going
America
to end...
first,
America first, end the kind of interventionist approach that Americans have taken, which, to be honest, has created a lot of chaos in the world. If you think about the results of the interventions in Iraq and Afghanistan, they have actually created a lot of problems.
But he has ended wars. He has quite simply ended wars.
But isn't this the trade-off between what should the Americans do now to, let's say, end suffering in Iran or to frustrate Chinese operations in Venezuela, let's say, but what will be the consequences 10, 20 years down the line? Could it actually make the global situation a lot more volatile in the long term?
Equally, is Afghanistan a better place today than it was before the Americans pulled up? I'd have to say, I'm not an...
Jury's out.
Little girls are no longer allowed to go to school.
Yes, but that was the same before the American intervention.
They've gone back to where they were before the intervention.
But when you think...
Taliban are in control. They've got control of the poppy field, so they're harvesting legal drugs.
It's gone back 600 years, hasn't it? You know, in terms of the way they live.
And the rushed exit from America from Afghanistan under Biden didn't help.
Well, one of the interesting things was that Tony Blair will be remembered for the disaster that was Iraq. What he is not remembered for is the great success he had in Sierra Leone, in East Timor, in Kosovo.
But they were irrelevant. They
weren't irrelevant to thousands of people who were being slaughtered in the Balkans.
Stephen, they were irrelevant in terms of the balance of power in the Middle East, which is what we're all worried about. The one thing in Iran, which is, really great grounds for hope, is that there's an underswell amongst the population, the 90 million you're talking about, to want change and to welcome outsiders coming in to improve their lives. That's got to be...
The only thing that will change is when the guards themselves put down their rifles. That's what happened just before when the Berlin Wall came down.
That's what doing in his messages, which he's been getting through every day, saying to the guards, lay them down. But the grinding poverty is driving this as well. Some people can't even afford the price of bread and rice.
No, they can't. Well, it's doubled in price in the last 2 weeks.
In Iran, 45% inflation.
The interesting thing, the bazaris, they call them, basically the people who keep the country running, the people who actually run, they've had enough on this.
And they're on the streets too.
Exactly so. But as is this chap,
the young man who's going to be hanged.
But if you look at what happened when the Berlin Wall fell down, it was when East German guards and East German soldiers
threw it in.
They actually just put down their weapons.
But the Iranian guards are a very powerful bunch. There's 150,000 of them.
They could take over.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. 150,000 of them, and the only thing they know is
repression.
Shoot protesters. Shoot protesters, all they know.
And they're shooting them in the eyes.
Exactly.
It's a horrific situation. Mike, Stephen, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you, as always, for your contribution.
Because don't forget, it's PMQs at midday, and as always, Tom Harwood and Gloria Tapiera want your questions for the Prime Minister. Send them in to
gbnews.com/your say. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Stay with us after the break.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The driest day of the week for many of us throughout today. Heavy rain will move into southern areas into Thursday with the potential for some quite strong winds. That's as these fronts develop into an area of low pressure through this evening. But before then, ahead of that, we've got a ridge of higher pressure through much of today. So plenty of sunshine to come, particularly across England and Wales and some eastern areas of Scotland seeing dry weather through much of the day. But as we look further west, into parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, we'll see strengthening winds and some heavy bursts of rain as well through this evening. It will be quite a chilly day, particularly compared to the past couple of days after that frosty start this morning. But with the lighter winds and sunshine in the east, I think it won't feel too bad at all. But the wet weather will become more widespread through this evening, and some of that rain will fall as snow over northern areas, particularly over the high ground of Scotland. But we could see some sleety snow across lower levels just for a time into into this evening across parts of Scotland and into northern England as this band of rain moves eastwards. A band of rain will push up into more southern eastern areas of England as well into this evening. So quite a lot more cloud around as we end the day than we will have started with. And wet weather will push eastwards throughout tonight. As I said, potentially some sleety snow falling across lower levels of northern England, but very little in the way of accumulations. Then as the night goes on, some clearer skies developing for more central areas into Northern Ireland and Wales. A chilly night here under those clearer skies, but cloud will begin to thicken across the southeast by tomorrow morning. That's as this area of low pressure starts to develop along the south coast. And we do have a rain warning in force for many southern and eastern areas of England, so there'll likely be some disruption throughout the day due to the quite persistent rainfall. That could push into parts of Wales further southwest as well, and we'll likely see some strengthening winds into the evening. Have a great day.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to 11:35. The top stories from the newsroom. The Chief Constable of West Midlands Police is under growing pressure to resign after admitting he used AI to give MPs false evidence about banning Israeli football fans. Craig Guilford says the system invented a previous match that never happened. The Home Secretary set to make a statement later today. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has confirmed pubs will get more temporary support after an outcry over sharp rises in business rates, easing back from a budget decision. She admits some pubs face a big increase despite a £4.3 billion transition fund, with extra help promised in the next few days and weeks. Donald Trump has warned Iran that the US will take very strong action if protesters are executed, as more than 2,400 people are now feared dead. A 26-year-old protester is reportedly just days from execution. The UK has summoned Iran's ambassador and imposed new sanctions, with the Home Secretary calling the killings horrendous. Meanwhile, the government has also dropped plans to force workers to sign up to new digital ID to prove their right to work. Digital checks, though, will still arrive by 2029, but registration will be optional. It's a clear U-turn from Sir Keir Starmer's pledge that people won't be able to work without digital ID. And at least 25 people have been killed after a construction crane in Thailand collapsed onto a moving train. Nearly 200 people were on board when the carriages were crushed and caught fire. Rescuers are still searching the wreckage as rail bosses order a full investigation. Those are the latest headlines. More from the newsroom after Prime Minister's questions.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back. It's 23 minutes to 12. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So older people are taking more and more drastic measures because they simply can't make ends meet financially. That's according to Age UK.
Well, research reveals that a significant number of people over the age of 65 are cutting electricity use. They're having baths or showers less often or even skipping meals.
Let's hear the details from the charity director of Age UK, Caroline Abrahams. Caroline, good morning to you. You're very welcome. Is this problem exacerbated in a cold winter, for instance?
Yes, absolutely right, because, of course, in the winter you have to run your heating, and that's an enormous cost. It's probably the biggest bill that most older people face on an annual basis. And so the temptation, of course, is to turn down your heating, skimp a bit, maybe turn it off altogether. I'm in London today. It's lovely and sunny. You could probably do without your heating, but actually a lot of the time it's been pretty cold the last few weeks, and that's really dangerous for older people if they don't stay adequately warm.
What are you advising them to do?
Our advice to older people is please don't skimp on the heating and put your health at risk. Please do stay warm. And if you're worried about paying the bill, get in touch with your whoever your energy supplier is. They're under an obligation to help you. And if you're worried about doing that, just get in touch with Age UK and we will help. There may be extra support available for you. And we quite often find in these situations that older people aren't claiming all the money that they are actually entitled to, which is really what we're drawing attention to today, that there are currently 1.9 million older people living in poverty. Those numbers could be set to the top the 2 million mark pretty soon. And part of the reason is because there is extra help available for some older people on very low incomes, but they often don't know about it. The government isn't doing enough to alert them or to get them the money. And that's a bit of a scandal, really, that so many poor older people who could really do with some extra help are going without.
In 2022, when gas prices peaked after the start of the Ukraine war, I remember that some local community organisations set up kind of heat lounges where they might heat a church hall or something like that for older people to go and sit together, have a cup of tea, but keep warm for free. Do you think those kind of ideas are worth exploring, not just for saving money, but also for companionship as well?
Yeah, any kind of a community response that supports people in managing the cost of living crisis and also staying warm through the winter has got to be a good thing. But I think we also have to realise that lots of older people wouldn't be in a position to go out and go to somewhere like that. They are very much stuck in their own homes. They may have mobility problems. If it's slippery underfoot, we really wouldn't want them out and about trying to get to a heat lounge. So it's really more, I think, about helping ensure that everybody in our society can afford to heat their own homes. And let's hope this is a year when we really make progress on that. We and lots of other charities are wanting the government to bring forward a social tariff for energy so that people who are on low incomes, for whatever reason, or are disabled, for one reason or other, have higher heating bills, actually get guaranteed cheap deal. And it is within our power to do it. It's within the power of the government to do it, and it would make a huge difference.
Well, thank you so much, Caroline Abrahams from Age UK. Really important message there. And, of course, it is worth exploring if you are entitled to any additional help.
And if you are struggling and you're struggling with websites and things, get in touch with charity, with Age UK, because they're a terrific charity. They do a lot of work and they're there to help you.
Absolutely. Well, coming up next, there's been no water for a fifth day. This is for thousands of homes across Kent and Sussex as a major incident is declared. But if you want to get away from it all and find some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
We've got to stop.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of fine weather across Europe at the moment, particularly central and southeastern areas. It's mild in Italy with sunny spells, but the one place where it is going to be unsettled on Thursday, Portugal. Heavy rain accompanied by strong winds. That system's going to move into Spain later in the day and affect parts of France. Italy, a few showers towards the north, otherwise plenty of warm sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens, and it stays fine in Italy for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. And water shortages continue to sweep across the southeast as thousands of people have been without water for 5 days.
30,000 properties, more than that actually, have been affected. Locals have had to go to water collection points because their taps have run dry.
Well, let's go to Tunbridge Wells in Kent, where GB News' South of England reporter Isabel Fekulak joins us now. Isabel, there must be some pretty disgruntled residents where you are.
Morning. Yes, some really frustrated residents here that I've spoke to this morning, and we'll hear from them for just a moment. But I'm at one of these water collection points in Tunbridge Wells where people have been arriving all morning to get their bottled water. That's on the 5th day with either little water pressure or no water at all for residents across Kent and Sussex. This happened by South East Water saying that it was after Storm Goretti and the cold weather causing a burst pipe and power shortage, and that's led to, like you said, around 30,000 homes being without access to drinking water for the last 5 days. Though speaking to some residents, they said that it was as early as Tuesday and Wednesday where they started to see these disruptions, so that would make it quite a few days longer than what we've heard. And this morning they've been arriving to collect water. They've been extremely frustrated at South East Water, who have said that they're very sorry to everyone who continues to experience no water or low water pressure. They've also said that supplies to 8,000 properties have now been restored. They're working hard to restore to the remaining 17,000. But yeah, speaking to residents on the ground, this has happened before in December and in 2022, and they're extremely frustrated that it's happened again. Here, listen to them now.
We had 2 weeks where there was no water at all. Couldn't even flush the toilet. Couldn't drink water.
The whole organisation is rotten from top to bottom. It's not fit for purpose. So I suggest the government steps in and do something quickly.
We shouldn't be allowing bonuses to be paid out of profits, which actually haven't been made.
We've suffered since before Christmas. They went spell before Christmas, and it just disrupts our life, really. Obviously, my wife's gone to work today, no shower.
I think the guys are doing as much as they can, and we appreciate the effort they're going to get us some help. So
incompetent is not the word for this company. We are so fed up with them as local residents. Apart from our local MP, Mike Martin, who's been absolutely brilliant, politicians in Westminster, they give a soundbite and they don't seem to care.
Well, the MP, Mike Martin, called in December for the CEO of South East Water to step down, and many other government ministers have called for the same, but we've seen no movement there. Back in 2022, when this happened for 6 days, he said that mistakes had been made and that they'll learn from them moving forward. But one of the main concerns that residents have brought to me this morning is that there's no communication, that people don't know when the water is going to be restored. For many in Tunbridge Wells, they had water this morning, but it went off again at midday. So many waiting for the moment that they find out that their taps will run again. But yeah, right now, no water here in Tunbridge Wells yet again.
Isabel, thank you so much for that report. And gosh, what a trying experience for people in Kent.
And it is going to stick in your craw, isn't it, if you haven't had any water for 2 weeks, 5 days. The chief executive earns a salary of £400,000 a year. Last year received a bonus of £115,000, so that puts him on over £500,000. He's admitted the crisis is a failure on his watch.
Yeah.
So give back the bonus.
Absolutely.
Give it back to the water company. At least cut their bills. Wouldn't cut the bills by much.
No.
Or plough the £115,000 into a bit of investment in the water.
Absolutely.
It's appalling, isn't it?
It is. We do have some breaking news to bring you now from Donald Trump, who's issued a statement saying that the United States needs Greenland for the purpose of national security. It's vital for the Golden Dome we're building. NATO should be leading the way for us to get it. If we don't, Russia or China will. That's not going to happen. Militarily, without the vast power of the United States, much of which I built during my first term, and I'm now bringing to a new and higher level, NATO would not be effective. We will bring you more on that shortly, but a breaking line from Donald Trump about Greenland, this ongoing discussion about who should own that very icy island.
My word, it goes on, doesn't it? Now we're going to cross the live to Westminster because it's Prime Minister's Questions today. Gloria De Piero and Tom Harwood are there. Morning to you both. There's only one story for Kemi Badenoch today. She's going to whack him over the head over the latest U-turn, isn't she, on digital ID?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised. Pubs, farmers, you could do a very, very long list of government U-turns. Miriam, it's nice to see that we both got the Wear It Pink memo today.
Guys, I'm clearly not in your WhatsApp group.
What about my tie?
Most important is for you to get your questions in. Tell us where you're from, what your name is, and we'll put them to our panel of politicians, Tory and Labour, with us here today.
Absolutely. So do get those questions in. gbnews.com/yoursay is the way to do so.
Thanks, Gloria and Tom. Very much looking forward to those PMQs. That will be live from midday. But coming up next, we do have a very brief weather forecast for you.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The driest day of the week for many of us throughout today. Heavy rain will move into southern areas into Thursday with the potential for some quite strong winds. That's as these fronts develop into an area of low pressure through this evening. But before then, ahead of that, we've got a ridge of higher pressure through much of today. So plenty of sunshine to come, particularly across England and Wales and some eastern areas of Scotland seeing dry weather through much of the day. But as we look further west, into parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, we'll see strengthening winds and some heavy bursts of rain as well through this evening. It will be quite a chilly day, particularly compared to the past couple of days after that frosty start this morning. But with the lighter winds and sunshine in the east, I think it won't feel too bad at all. But the wet weather will become more widespread through this evening, and some of that rain will fall as snow over northern areas, particularly over the high ground of Scotland. But we could see some sleety snow across lower levels just for a time into this evening across parts of Scotland and into northern England as this band of rain moves eastwards. A band of rain will push up into more southern eastern areas of England as well into this evening. So quite a lot more cloud around as we end the day than we will have started with, and wet weather will push eastwards throughout tonight. As I said, potentially some sleety snow falling across lower levels of northern England, but very little in the way of accumulations. Then as the night goes on, some clearer skies developing for more central areas into Northern Ireland and Wales. A chilly night here under those clearer skies, but cloud will begin to thicken across the southeast by tomorrow morning. That's as this area of low pressure starts to develop along the south coast, and we do have a rain warning in force for many southern and eastern areas of England, so there'll likely be some disruption throughout the day due to the quite persistent rainfall. That could push into parts of Wales further southwest as well, and we'll likely see some strengthening winds into the evening. Have a great day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me.